So we started off at Loch Aline, and then I can't remember where we went, John. Started off, we came out of Loch Feochan, and then we needed somewhere to wait for the tide because we were going to head north up the Sound of Mull.
Oh yeah.
So we anchored in Loch Don, which was really lovely. It just felt like we were only a few hours into our holiday, but we'd kind of already got a million miles away from everywhere. So yeah, after a bit of 11s there, then we headed off up the Sound of Mull and into Loch Aline, and that was a bit the wind was more on the nose than we'd planned, but we were still determined to sail, so it was a bit of a kind of crash bang wallop of a sail to windward.
Yeah, it was pretty wet and frantic. 20 odd knot wind.
Yeah. So then we hid in Loch Aline for a bit, and while the wind was still blowing it was kind of force 5, force 6. So we went for a walk up east of the castle at the Ardtornish estate.
Yeah, the River Rannoch.
That's the one, yeah. And so we went for a walk up to, there's a little hydroelectric scheme there, and then a lovely little lochen with a crannog on it. Very cute.
Yeah. The weather was a bit changeable, wasn't it?
It was a bit, soggy intermittently, but it stopped raining long enough to get some lovely views.
Yeah.
And then we set off from Loch Aline up to Buidhe.
Yeah.
And we jibbed a bit. We bunged the motor on because it was head to wind most of the way.
Yeah.
Dropped the hook here.
Managed to sail the last bit, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we dropped the hook here in Buidhe and woke up in paradise, and the sky's blue, the seals were just sort of splashing about over there, being happy, and it's one of my favourite anchorages.
What's the plan for today?
Well, we think if we set off sometime soon, then we should have tide with us as we're going round. We'll kind of reach Ardnamurchan just as the tide is starting to head north, and so once we get out from Buidhe and we can get a forecast, if everything's doing what we expect it to do, then we'll probably head up to maybe Canna or Rum.
We've arrived in Canna, 37 miles from Buidhe. As you can see, it's absolutely gorgeous. And we got one of the last moorings here, but that's fine.
We sheltered in Canna because it was quite wild. The wind had got up to kind of 24, 25 knots, and that was in the anchorage, which is pretty sheltered, and it was bucketing down with rain, and so we just kind of hid for a little while on Canna. Once things had calmed down a bit, we ventured ashore in search of Wi-Fi hotspots, which were easy to find because they were located around little huddles of very wet yachties. We decided we'd really better move on and do some sailing today. There's not a lot of wind, so actually we've just motored round from Canna. We've just come round the northern tip of Rum, and there's not a lot of wind, but we figured there might be a bit more wind later, so we've come in to explore a little anchorage we've not come into before, and it's got an Antares chart, and it's, I think you pronounce it Salmon Insa, and it's just to the east of the northern tip of Rum, and we've got westerly winds, so at the moment we're okay and sheltered, but we're going to have to keep an eye on it because the wind's going to go around to the northwest. But that'll be nice because that'll hopefully give us a bit of a sail around the last bit to Loch Tearnait.
First kayak trip of the year, and then it was awesome. Yeah, the very interesting bit of coastline, lots of caves and geos and stacks and arches and things.
We kayaked from the bay to the east of where we had anchored and landed on the beautiful white sands of Salmon Insa. There were ruins of a large farmhouse and what looked like older black houses, plus an intake and other structures.
I loved the little settlement. There were kind of ruins of I don't know what, it was more than just a croft house though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was definitely some sort of fairly substantial farmstead with lots of outbuildings and sheep pens maybe.
As we landed, we could see red deer in the sand dunes.
Beautiful sandy beach.
Yeah, awesome. Very nice, yeah. Lots of individual sandy beaches with caves and things.
We returned to the bay to the east, which now had more of the beach exposed, visible below half tide. We explored the caves, one with a wonderful waterfall.
Skipper?
Loch Tearnait, I think we're going to go to after that temporary stop, which was awesome. Where do you want to go?
I'd like to go and anchor somewhere nice and quiet now. Oh, I think we better jibe now.
Yeah, it's time to jibe time. I noticed the auto helm is working substantially better now. It's actually got cables running to the motor.
Yeah, that would help, wouldn't it?
Top tip. Yeah, check the cables if your auto suddenly stops working.
Well done for fixing that.
Well, keep your fingers crossed.
I'm ready for my tea now though.
Yeah, it's been quite a long day really, isn't it?
Yeah.
But so we're only less than 5 miles from our anchorage. And she's on rails today. She's particularly happy on this tack, I think.
I'm looking forward to getting anchored in Loch Tearnait and then putting my feet up and having a nice bit of dinner.
The next day we engined on at 6 o'clock, departing the anchorage by 6:25. Wind was less than 6 knots westerly, with good visibility and the sea was smooth. We headed for Arisaig. 6:45 we sighted a large pod of dolphins to our north. They looked very pretty against the backdrop of the Coolins sky. At 7:20 we sighted a large aquatic mammal blowing off. Maybe a minke? 7:45, 1.5 nautical miles northeast of Eigg, a school of porpoises was sighted. 8:55 we entered the Arisaig Channel, 25 minutes before high water. We made our way through the very tricky entrance of Arisaig, being very careful to spot all of the channel markers. We actually found there was one more than we were expecting, but the lateral buoys were pretty easy to follow. By 9:35 we'd engined off and were anchored in Stewart's Bay, Arisaig, in 8 metres at high water.
We're kind of making our way between the two channels, the South Channel and the North Channel of Arisaig. By kayak, obviously. You never get that boat here. We've got about 5 inches of water, I think, on a falling side.
I think it might be time for a picnic.
It's an amazing spot though, isn't it?
Oh, this is lovely. Taken.
It's all for you, dear.
Are we off?
We're off. Woohoo! What could possibly go wrong?
Heading for that rock. Lovely.
And you're in.
Where to next?
Out to the entrance, I think. Even further. So clear as well, isn't it? Assemble Bromptons!
Took the bikes ashore and cycled to the porter's lodge, overlooking the entrance channel and the bay called the waiting room. There was one yacht waiting to go into the bay and lots of kayakers exploring the sands. The porter's lodge is named from when the outer bay was used as the stopping off point for steamers from Glasgow. The entrance to Loch Aline was too perilous for the steamers, so they would anchor in the outer bay and a smaller boat would ferry passengers and cargoes ashore. Next, we cycled back past the boat and round the bay to the shops at Arisaig. also checked out the marina, which has changed hands, and met a nice woman and talked about anchorages and Antares charts. We never anchor without one. We departed Arisaig at 9:30 in the morning. As I raised the anchor, I couldn't help noticing how sticky the mud was in Stewart's Bay. We only had 3 knots of wind and a slight sea as we left the South Channel.
Lunch and order Merkin Point.
There were gales forecast, and they were supposed to be less strong in the south and east, so we headed for Loch Aline, which should be good in a northwesterly gale. Also, we'd have the tide with us until 1805. As we sailed down the Sound of Mull, we had 20 knots of wind behind us and are running on full genoa, making 4 to 6 knots.
Station calling Stornoway Coast Guard for radio check. This is Stornoway Coast Guard. Can you say again your name, over?
The sea state was pretty good, slight, or at least it seemed to be to us, heading downwind.
Chico, eh?
The next day we went exploring Loch Aline again. There was no sign of life at the veg garden or the estate offices, but we enjoyed a wander to the Tower House and explored up the river. If you've enjoyed this video and you want to support us, check out our Patreon link in the description.